A dead man washed ashore with secret plans. The Nazis read the man moved troops the wrong way. One corpse, one briefcase. One invasion saved. Operation Mincemeat. By early 1943, the war was at a tipping point. The Allies had successfully kicked the Axis powers out of North Africa. Now, just across the Mediterranean, lay what Churchill famously called the soft underbelly of Europe. The question buzzing through the halls of power in London and Washington wasn't if they should strike, but where. France was still a fortress, and the Balkans were a possibility. But all roads, strategically speaking, led to one place: Sicily. Taking Sicily was a critical goal. It would secure Allied shipping lanes through the Mediterranean, which were essential for supplies. It would provide airfields to bomb mainland Italy and Germany. And, maybe most importantly, it would be the first major step back onto the European continent, a powerful symbol that the tide was turning. The mission even had a code name, Operation Husky, but the plan's biggest strength was also its greatest weakness. The German high command could read a map just as well as the Allies. They started pouring soldiers and equipment onto the island, beefing up coastal defenses, laying minefields, and bracing for the attack they knew was coming. For the thousands of American, British, and Canadian soldiers getting ready for the invasion, Sicily was starting to look less like a soft underbelly and more like a death trap. The Allies were stuck. Their most logical target was also their most predictable, and because of that, their most dangerous. They couldn't change the target, so they had to change what the Germans thought the target was. They needed a lie, not just a little piece of fake news, but a grand deception, a lie so detailed and so convincing it would make Adolf Hitler himself physically move entire armies away from the real invasion point. What they needed was a ghost, and a story for him to tell. In the secret world of British intelligence, there was a department for just about every kind of warfare, including the weird kind. Crafting this epically fell to a small group called the 20 Committee or XX Committee, a nod to the Roman numeral for a double cross. Their entire job was to turn captured German spies into double agents and spin complex webs of deceit. At the center of this particular scheme were two men: Ewan Montagu, a sharp, detail-obsessed naval intelligence officer, and Charles Chumley, a quirky and endlessly imaginative RAF flight lieutenant. The idea they landed on wasn't totally new. It actually came from a 1939 memo known as the Trout Memo. The memo, which compared deceiving an enemy to the patient art of fly fishing, was written by Admiral John Godfrey, the director of naval intelligence, but it had all the creative flair of his famous personal assistant, a young lieutenant commander you may have heard of, Ian Fleming, the future creator of James Bond. Point number 28 of the Trout Memo was titled, a suggestion not a very nice one. It proposed dressing up a corpse as an officer, stuffing his pockets with fake plans, and dropping him on an enemy coast. For years, it was just a morbid idea filed away in a drawer. But now, facing the fortress of Sicily, Chumley and Montagu dusted it off and saw a brilliant, radical solution. They tweaked the idea. Instead of a parachutist, their man would be the victim of a plane crash at sea. The plan got its code name from a random list of available names, one that turned out to be ghoulishly perfect: Operation Mincemeat. The plan was simple, and simply insane. They would find a body, create a fictional identity for it, plant meticulously forged documents hinting at an invasion of Greece and Sardinia, and then float it ashore on the coast of Spain, a neutral country that was secretly friendly with Germany. It was a huge gamble. So many things could go wrong. The Spanish had to find the body. They had to give the documents to the Germans. And most importantly, the famously efficient and suspicious Germans had to actually believe the lie. Everything depended on the story being perfect, and the main character of that story was about to be created. The first and grisliest task was finding a body. This was trickier than it sounds. They couldn't use a soldier who had died in action. His family would have been told. They needed someone with no family to miss him, no one to ask any questions. Ewan Montagu brought in a top pathologist, Sir Bernard Spilsbury, and the London coroner, Bentley Purchase, who promised to look out for a suitable candidate. In January 1943, they found their man. Glyndwr Michael, a 34-year-old homeless man from Wales, was found dead in an abandoned London warehouse after eating rat poison. We'll never know if it was suicide or a tragic accident. His life had been hard. His father had taken his own life, his mother had passed away, and he was left to drift. In the cold math of war, his anonymity made him the perfect choice. Glyndwr Michael, the man who had nothing, was about to become the man who never was. With their silent star, Montague and Chumley started building his new life. He would be Captain Acting Major William Bill Martin of the Royal Marines. They chose the name because there were several other William Martins of the same rank, which would make it a nightmare for German intelligence to cross-reference. But a name wasn't enough. They had to give him a soul. Major Martin needed a personality, a life beyond the uniform. They did this through what the team called pocket litter, all the little things a person carries around. They invented a fiancée for him named Pam, complete with a photo, actually a picture of an MI5 clerk named John Leslie, and sappy love letters. They added ticket stubs from a London theater, a bill for an engagement ring, a stern letter from his bank about an overdraft, and a worried letter from his father. Every item was a tiny breadcrumb, designed to build a completely believable human being. They even had his engagement notice printed in the newspaper to add another layer of authenticity. But the real heart of the deception was inside the black attach case chained to his wrist. It held two official-looking letters. The first was a personal note from Lieutenant General Sir Archibald Nye, a top British general, to General Sir Harold Alexander, the commander in North Africa. In a chatty, informal tone, the letter laid out Allied plans. It directly stated that the main invasions would be in Greece and Sardinia, and that Sicily was just a diversion. And a brilliant move. The letter even used the real code name, Operation Husky, but tied it to the fake invasion of Greece, a clever double bluff to make the Germans think they'd stumbled upon the real, top-secret plan. The second letter was from Lord Louis Mountbatten, the head of Combined Operations, introducing Major Martin as a brilliant amphibious warfare expert. It even had a clumsy joke about sardines, a touch of personality meant to make the high-level male feel real. Once the documents were forged and the pocket litter was ready, Major Martin was dressed in his uniform. The body of Glyndwr Michael was carefully preserved and placed in a special canister packed with dry ice. Driven by a famous race car driver, the canister was sped to a submarine base in Scotland. The stage was set, the Ghost was ready to sail. On April 19, 1943, the submarine HMS Seraph slipped out of its port in Scotland. On board, in its cold steel canister, was Major Martin. Only the sub's officers knew what they were really carrying. The crew was told it was a secret weather device. After a tense, 10-day trip, the Seraph surfaced in the dead of night, just over a mile off the coast of Huelva, a port town in southern Spain. The location had been chosen with surgical precision. Spain was officially neutral, but its fascist government under Franco was friendly with the Nazis, and German intelligence, the Abwehr, operated freely there. Huelva was home to a particularly active and aggressive German agent. The currents were also just right, calculated to wash the body ashore exactly as if it were a real plane crash victim. In the pre-dawn hours of April 30th, Ewan Montague and the officers of the Seraph held a brief, solemn service. They read the 39th Psalm, a funeral prayer. Then, with the words, "And we commit his body to the deep," they gently slid Major Martin into the sea. As the submarine slipped back beneath the waves, the most critical phase began, the wait. Later, that morning, just as they'd planned, a Spanish fisherman found the body. The attached case chained to the wrist was an immediate red flag that this was no ordinary officer. The body was given to the Spanish authorities, who quickly told the local German consul. Back in London, the team started the next act of their show. They sent a series of increasingly frantic secret cables to the British Embassy in Madrid, demanding the immediate return of the briefcase and stressing how sensitive its contents were. The whole performance was designed to do one thing: convince the Germans that this briefcase was incredibly important. The Spanish authorities, feeling the pressure from both sides, eventually agreed to return the case. But first, just as Montague had hoped, they let their German friends have a peek. In Madrid, German agents carefully steamed open the envelopes, photographed every single document, and then painstakingly sealed them back up. The photos, along with the agents' glowing assessment of their authenticity, were put on the next priority flight to Berlin. The bait, so carefully set, was on its way to the one man who mattered most, Adolf Hitler. When the fake documents landed on his desk, Adolf Hitler was sold. The over-the-top British theatrics, the believable backstory of Major Martin, and the sheer luck of the discovery all lined up. German intelligence sent a report up the chain of command stating, "The genuineness of the captured enemy documents is above suspicion." The Führer swept aside any lingering doubts from his own generals. declaring that the intel confirmed his own suspicions of an Allied move into the Balkans. The results were immediate and game-changing. Hitler ordered a massive redeployment of troops. A full panzer division was moved from France to Greece. Forces and naval ships were rushed to reinforce Sardinia. In all, the Germans doubled their troop numbers in Sardinia and sent several more divisions to Greece and the Balkans. Crucially, the defenses in Sicily were not significantly strengthened. Some forces were even moved away. Thanks to their ultra-code-breaking program at Bletchley Park, the Allies could read the encoded German messages in real time. They watched as their elaborate lie was not just believed but acted upon. On May 14th, they intercepted a message confirming Hitler's new orders. A triumphant signal was sent to Winston Churchill in London. It read simply, "Mincemeat swallowed rod, line, and sinker." The deception had worked better than anyone had dared to hope. The path to Sicily was now significantly clearer. The story of Operation Mincemeat is one of the most incredible deceptions in military history, proving that sometimes the cleverest plans are more powerful than the deadliest weapons. If you think these hidden stories of spies and secrets are as fascinating as we do, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss where our investigations take us next. Conclusion: the corpse that saved thousands. In July 10, 1943, Operation Husky, the Allied invasion of Sicily, began. A massive fleet of 3,000 ships carried 150,000 Allied soldiers to the island's southern coast. The battle for Sicily was still brutal, but the German and Italian defenders were caught off guard and looking in the wrong direction. The heavy reinforcements they were expecting never arrived. The landings were successful, with far fewer casualties than military planners had grimly predicted. The entire campaign was over in just 38 days, a victory that directly led to the downfall of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini and Italy's eventual exit from the war. Operation Mincemeat was instrumental. It saved thousands of Allied lives and almost certainly shortened the war. After the discovery, the body of Major Martin was buried with full military honors in a cemetery in Huelva, Spain. For decades, the grave stood as a silent monument to a man who never existed. It wasn't until 1997 that the British government finally revealed the truth, adding a poignant inscription to the headstone. Glyndwr Michael served as Major William Martin. The story of Glyndwr Michael is a powerful and tragic footnote to one of the war's greatest tricks. A forgotten man in life, his anonymous death made a world-changing impact. Operation Mincemeat remains a masterclass in deception, a reminder that in the total chaos of war, victory isn't just decided on the battlefield, but in the minds of your enemy. It proved that sometimes, the most powerful weapon you have isn't a bomb or a tank, but a perfectly told lie.